I've run a lot of hard 5Ks in my life, and people often ask, what should a hard 5K feel like? Like, what happens to your body at what point? So what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to take you through what happens to my body during a hard 5K, how it feels. And I'm going to use Geraldton Park Run, which I did this week, as the base, but I'm also going to show you across every 5K that I have footage of what's happening to me and when, in the hope that it can help you execute the best 5K possible. Arguably, 5K is the hardest distance to nail because so much of it is done on feel. And the margins between nailing it and blowing up spectacularly are very fine. The first kilometre particularly is a game because there's a delay between how hard you feel you're running and how stressful it is on your body. At this stage I accelerated away from the others and I tried to feel my way into it, a smooth but sustainable pace. Something hard enough to feel like I'm on my limit, but I'm not over the top. Because at this stage it's all almost entirely on feel, the heart rate hasn't crept up yet, so you are gambling a little. I was working hard, but it was in a pretty full-on headwind, so the pace was lower than normal for that effort. So it's a kilometre spent entirely trying to compute what's going on. My breathing rate creeps up and I just try to stay calm. Calm and calculated gets me to where I want to be, not cavalier. So right now my legs almost felt like they were catching up. They're moving fast but almost disconnected from my body. It's a hard feeling to describe in words, like they're weak, but it's because the fuel hasn't fully got there. It's kind of like the warming up of a car engine. I've gunned it, I've stepped on the accelerator and now the engine has to get going. It's playing catch up. For me, there's an element of panic I have to control. If I've gone too fast, it's an awful 4 kilometers to come. In this instance, I felt in control and it was a 3:33 kilometer into the headwind, so surely I would be faster on the turnaround. As I got to the first turnaround, it was a good opportunity to see how close the other runners are to me. Too close for comfort really, especially if I've got it wrong and they've got it right. So I carry on pushing and hoping that the tailwind will make a difference. Usually, the second kilometre of a 5K is the start of the rhythm, where I've found about the right pace and now it's about settling in and preserving energy. Even with the turnaround, this felt pretty hard. I did feel smooth and in control enough to pose for a photo mid-stride, but I definitely wasn't having any conversations at that effort level. You can feel your heart beating, putting in the work. You start to doubt if you can hold the pace and what effect the wind might be having. And even though I had a tailwind, the second kilometre was 3:36, which was 3 seconds slower. And now we come to what I think is the hardest kilometre in the 5K, the third. Too far from the start to feel good, but too far from the end to feel like you've got this. You have to really dig in and hold that pace. You don't let it drop. I noticed at the turnaround that I'd got a slightly more comfortable lead, but I still didn't know if someone might have paced it better than I did. So I have to dig in, into a headwind, and I could feel my effort level rising, but the pace dropping. I tried to stay smooth, tell myself it's only about 7 minutes of running left, and importantly, if I'm hurting, everyone else will be too. It can't just be me, and that's weirdly comforting. So the third kilometre was 3:39 and another 3 seconds slower, but the fourth kilometre is always the turn point, it's the indicator. If you've got it right, you can maintain your pace, and if you've got it wrong, then the pace drops, sometimes dramatically. Your body just can't sustain that effort ahead of the final push. At this stage, legs were wobbly, the breathing was laboured and the pain was at its most intense. Everything was focused on getting to the turn point where I could see how close the other runners were, but also where I'd know I'd have the wind at my back and 1 kilometre left. I just held on for grim life until that turn point. At this point, the wind had done its job on me. My effort level was rising and I could feel my heart beating so hard, but my pace was dropping. My legs hurt. I just had to hope the same could be said for the other runners. I knew if I could get to the last turn and have a look, I could trust my last kilometre. And at the turn, it looked like everyone was suffering just as much as me. There was a significant gap, which was just as well because my goose was pretty much cooked. I hit the fourth kilometre in 3:47, so a big drop. The aim now was to see what's in the tank, no let off. I often think with the last kilometer it's all mindset. It's been proven that you can always find a sprint finish if you're on the track, regardless of how you've run the race. And I feel the same about a 5k. My legs were screaming, my heart beating hard, and my breathing was so laboured, but on the flip side, I knew it was all over in less than 1 kilometre. It was just a kilometre repeat, and then it was just an 800 metre repeat, and then 600, and so on. That was the mindset I was going with. I accelerated as hard as I could at the end, knowing a time in the 17s was in the balance. With a PB of 17:15, I knew I wasn't getting anywhere near that with the headwind like I'd experienced on the course, but a time in the 17s would be nice. With 400 to go, I knew it would come down to the second. I saw the finish line and I gunned it as hard as I could. I was pumping my arms, body swamped with lactate at a totally unsustainable pace. And as I turned the corner, I could see the time slipping away, eventually crossing the line broken in 18:04. But a last kilometre of 3:30, which was the fastest of all of the 5. And my reflection of the 5k is this: it's painful. It's painful if you get it wrong, and it's painful when you get it right. But at least it's over quickly and you get to enjoy a nice breakfast and coffee and recover quickly. This is a great distance to teach yourself about the pain cave and how to survive in it. You might just surprise yourself.